An intelligent idea creates sensual pleasure. What is luxury? To be exclusive. To be recognizable. To be unique. I communicate emotions through details. Style with shape. Sensuality through materials. I'm always searching objects that belong to me, that can trace unique itineraries of my life.
The Geneva Seal. This embodies the entire know-how of the Geneva manufacture. Decorated bridges and chamfered edges. Each wheel requires 40 to 60 operations.
The precision of a watch is a function of its movement. For Rolex and for Hans Wilsdorf, to guarantee the precision of a timepiece, the pressing question was how to protect the movement itself from the elements, not only water, but also tiny particles of dust. In 1926, a major step was taken with the creation of the world's first waterproof and dustproof wristwatch. The Rolex Oyster was born. Over the years, subtle changes in the design continue to improve the Oyster, adding more comfort while keeping the style contemporary. And, along with style, more functions have been added. A Rolex wristwatch was the first to show the date through a small aperture on the face. It was also the first wristwatch to spell out the day of the week in full.
my background is, let's say, training director and event director for a watch company, and then moving to general manager of an association of 11 brands. They were part of the most famous fine watchmaking brands. I managed this, and then I had to close this association, and we reopened the foundation for fine watchmaking in Geneva.
Because the definition that I want to introduce in my shop was to really to select not brands, but really all the pieces that bring something to the watch history. If it is, even if it is the bigger brand in the world, if it is just like another or one more watch, it was not my target. So a few collectors at that time start to come because they're always aware to see if there is a new place or a new brand or something special on the subject they love. And years after years, because at one moment the finance look all the Swiss people in the watch making industry, it started to interest a lot of big company, and the revolution in watchmaking starts.
So it will be the movement first, the quality of the movement, and the fact that for the brand they are really manufacturing their own movement, and mostly all the components inside the movement. So for me that's one of the key points in order to define the luxury watch. Then with this, indeed it will be the quality of the finishing process. It's not a question of price, it's much more a question of the way the watch is manufactured. If you use a very simple movement like the ETA movement, it will be a very good movement. But the ETA movement won't give a luxury watch. If you work on this movement regarding the finishing of the movement, so you can keep the same movement, but the finishing operation, you will add something like 30% of the value of the movement, you know, just by working on the edges, by creating some nice finishing on the different components. So it's really improving the value. And then you may have also the decoration of the movement. And the funny thing is, defining the luxury watch, you will see the difference in between a regular watch and a luxury watch. You won't see it. It's inside. It's hidden. So it's really a luxury for the people that.
Because for everyone, luxury is different. It could be through a brand, and the brand is a vision, and it could be about the product. But all the parameters are so important that it could be different for every person. But for a watch, at my opinion, the luxury must be not a big production. Luxury is confidentiality. When the people are wearing all the same watch, or wearing the same bag, or get all the same cars, at my opinion, this is not really luxury. This is just a part of.
Well, to describe the different type of customer, like nouveau riche, the social connoisseur, or the self-connoisseur, there are three types of different customers. If I describe the nouveau riche, maybe I can use the nouveau riche or the Chinese nouveau riche. They don't know the watches. They are interested in it. And what they want to know, in fact, it's just they want not to make a mistake when they select a watch. So the watch is really representing themselves. So if you are the chairman of a large company, you need a certain type of watch. They don't have time, they don't have the knowledge, so they will ask me which type, what is the watch I should wear. So sometimes it could be difficult. And usually with this type of people, I say, what do you like? And when you say, what do you like? They don't understand, you know, because they are buying for status reason. But that's very fun. Some of them, you know, they are changing. They are going to the connoisseur, social connoisseur, because they understand that they have to know a little bit about the watch, so that you can tell to your friends the history of the watch, the history of the brand, how it is made, so a few points. So you have more and more, and I'm speaking of men indeed, but you have some women now a little bit interested by the watches. More and more the people, they discuss the watch they wear, why they have it. Sometimes it's coming from, they inherited from their father. So they are, some of them are really starting to be connoisseur, but just with a kind of average knowledge. Well, I have many stories. I remember I have met a guy, very, very wealthy, but I didn't know it. And then I had a look to his watch and I asked him the question. I said, oh, you have a Vacheron Constantin tourbillon in platinum, so you can imagine the price. And he said, yes. And I tried just to develop this with him. And he said, oh, but I have also the Patek Philippe tourbillon. I have a François-Paul Jaune tourbillon. I have Vacheron Constantin tourbillon in platinum #2, limited edition. That's wow. But I understood that the guy, he knew nothing about the watch. And when I asked him, well, what is interesting for you? He said something, listen, he said, you know, when I wear it, it's very nice on the wrist. And he had, what he told me, he never mentioned the price, but I mean, you can make a very quick calculation. It's more than €1 million of value of watches. But so that could be the social connoisseur. He knew just like this. The last type of customer, it's the self-connoisseur. This one, in fact, there are people that sometimes they don't have a lot of money, but they are very interested by the watch. Sometimes understanding the movement, the intricacy of the movement, because it could be highly complicated. And most of the time what they do in order to develop their knowledge, they will go on internet. So you have some blog where people, they exchange ideas and they ask questions. I have seen this watch, what do you think about that watch? So you have some very famous internet site where you can really exchange and improve your knowledge. I was mentioning, for instance, the purist. The purist, it's people that are totally passionate about watches. You have one guy in charge of a brand, and they do this for free. So, and they know everything regarding the brand, and sometimes they visit the brand. They will create a report on what they have seen and about the different type of watches, the specific watches, and it's really unbelievable. I mean, the way they explain this, it's and there are people that are totally passionate about watchmaking.
Well, Nouveau Riche, especially around, I mean, at the beginning of the year 2000, we start to have some people coming to the shop with weird questions, like, okay, I'm from this country, I'm working in this business, my fortune is around X, what is the watch I have to wear? So it was quite weird for us, but I can understand. So my answer was, okay, what do you want to, what is the image, what is the target you want to illustrate with this watch? Do you want to be the king of the world with the people who know very well the watches, or with the people who don't know nothing about watches? Or do you want to be at the level of your position, but with maybe a low profile? You don't want to wear a 500,000 euro watches on the wrist. I mean, it was like, so, and it was typically the nouveau riche attitude.
When a collector say, okay, I'm collecting watch, even if it is the 5 craziest watch of the last 10 years. Okay, it's cool. But naturally, I'm much more in the way of accumulate. When I start, one of my customers was more than 1,000 pieces. A lot of people were thinking this guy is crazy because he used to change watches between 5 to 7 times a day. Because he say with 1,000 pieces, I don't want to wait like more than 4 years to get the first one if I just change every day. I mean, who cares? There is no violence. This is his own passion. And for me, it's almost normal. Say, okay, cool. What's the point?
One of the questions that we can ask is how can people move into becoming a self-connaisseur of watches? I mentioned already using internet. Very often, you know, the people that go to the boutique, they have a very good knowledge of the watches, very often. They went on the internet and they have really worked a lot on the knowledge of a watch. Very often, you know, they will know everything related to the brand, related to the different type of products, related to the history of the brand and so on. So internet, it's a fantastic tool. Also, all the blog and all the exchange in between the people on internet. I mentioned the purist. And then also you have, I mean, the Foundation for Fine Watchmaking, for instance. They organize some workshop in order for the people to understand the movement or to understand the different type of complications with many examples. So that's, it can help. It's also with some retailers sometimes. I know some retailers in Paris, they welcome during the evening their customer, and they spend time speaking about watches and so on. So they are totally passionate, so they are not working, they are just chatting. So that's a way to move into becoming a self-connaisseur. And then also why those people, they are interested in the history. In fact, understanding the history of the brand, it's understanding also what they are doing today. You have brands like Jean-Claude, they have been manufacturing movement for many, many years, and they have a portfolio of movement that's really fantastic. I think they have 90 different type of movements, while other brands like Panerai, for instance, they have one movement, or Breitling, they have maybe one movement. So it's not the same thing. Understanding the history of the brand, it's really something that's helping to understand the roots of the brand, how they develop the movement, how they develop the different type of watches. If you have a look to IWC, for instance, they have different ranges of product, and when they are developing a watch, a diver's watch, for instance, they will underline their history inside the diving watches. And they have manufactured diving watches in the 1930s, for instance. Same thing for pilot watches. In the IWC museum, you can see the pilot watch from the 1930s. So they have a kind of legitimacy with this. And it's still that's the type of story that you can tell your friends, the people around you. So working on the history, it's always very positive for a brand.
design and functions are closely related. When designing a watch, the function and the design of the watch come all together. So if you have a watch that is an elegant timepiece like a minute repeater, you would want to have a material that is elegant, that has some refinement.
A mechanical watch is a series of gears and springs and multiple parts. They typically have between 175 and 500 little pieces, hundreds of them, painstakingly engineered and assembled. They all have to work together in harmony to tell time perfectly. The beauty of a mechanical watch is its movement. A movement is the heart and soul of a mechanical watch.
Some people said, okay, it could be the end of the tradition and luxury watches. Target is really,
We don't know.
To do something never done before. Of course, you got some major brand, institutional or historical brands that they just reproduce, innovating the way as watchmaking used to be since the beginning, which is also clever. But there is quite a big number on the new generation of the new philosophy for the last 15 years is really to do something out of this watchmaking world.
Still, they will very traditionally manufacture the components, and the way to manufacture, it's really the craftsman working on his bench and really working, taking time in order to, let's say, for instance, to pare down the edges, using a piece of wood and paring down slowly the edges, or working on the hole in order to just improve the quality of the hole. So it's really still very traditional. So, well, innovation, yes, but it's developed in a very traditional way.